that concern has to go directly to your building principal.
Okay, and then a junior high question. With the use of shields, can students be closer than 3 feet?
Can they? I guess, yes, the answer was they can, but I don't believe that we should. I think that something that came up today here, Rob Dunn and I had a conversation. There have not been any COVID cases at Costco on Fields Erdel. And from the beginning, they implemented face masks and they had shields. And so I find that to be frankly amazing that they've had 0 cases. So while they probably could move together, I think it's best practice right now to stay at least 3 feet apart, even though we have those shields. We'll do our best, of course, to make sure that we can do that, which I think leads into another question I saw on my right-hand side here about class sizes. We don't know what class sizes are going to be. We're going to try to keep them as low as possible and just kind of do our best. The fact that we have students coming out, going into online, and the possibility of using current staff to teach those students makes it, we don't want to take teachers so that now all of a sudden we've got a class of 35. That doesn't make sense to us, nor does it make sense to you, I'm sure. So I think I'm just kind of rambling right now. So let's just go to the next question.
All right, so the next one for the high school, it says high school master schedule hasn't been built yet. How do I prepare for online, in-person, hybrid if I don't know yet what I'm teaching?
Has the master schedule been built? I think I'm going to defer to Paul, but I believe the master schedule is pretty close. It's not something that Josh is just going to flip the switch and his team and Sue Duffy. So to say that it's not built is maybe accurate, maybe not. But I would say that I'm going to turn it over to Paul to kind of talk about that just a little bit. I know he's got some hot off the press stuff over there.
So for the high school, I met with Josh today. While there will be department chairs that will be spoken with because due to some specific needs, we will have to make some moves in those departments. He will run the schedule now. We have looked at all of the numbers. We're missing about 115 students who in 10 through 12 had not contacted the school as of yet. They have been called twice. We'll move them to in person if we don't hear from them by the close of business tomorrow. You should be teaching your classes as close to possible, but we will have to make some moves specifically in some departments, and that will be done as teaching assignments are always done through the department chair and with Josh. But we're probably looking about 80% of being able to hold what you left. Teaching should be intact, but those 20% moves could precipitate others to move.
Okay, you might have answered this, John. The question is, do we know an estimation of what class sizes will be? That's for elementary.
Yeah, we answered that, but I would anticipate they'll be low. We're still working on that. We worked on it today. We worked on it over the weekend, and we will meet with building principals Wednesday. They have an idea of some things that need to happen. But we won't know specifically for probably a couple more days. But we anticipate them to be low.
A junior high question, will there be teachers that will be asked to teach class periods both remotely and some in person?
I'll turn that to Paul.
So based on our numbers, our goal in teaming situations is to have pure teams. Mrs. Getz will be sending out some information to her staff today, and I don't want to get in front of her because those are building level decisions. It appears that our core courses will probably be able to be as close to being pure, meaning they're either all in person or remote. Similar to the high school, we may have some electives where they are specialties. I can think of like our world languages. There may not be enough sections. One of the things that we're trying to do is isolate maybe a single section when possible. Meaning if you have 4 sections, and this is just an example, I don't need to know this to be true, but it's a great example to use. If we have 5 sections of Spanish at the junior high, our goal would be to maybe have only one of them have students in person and online. So to the extent that we can shrink that footprint, that's what we're trying to do, is to make as many sections pure as possible, meaning purely in person or purely remote. And again, that's a numbers game based upon the community and what they requested for their children. But those will be few and far between in buildings when possible. I think where it happens is when you start to get into world languages, where you have a small enrollment in like an AP computer science A at the high school. When you start to super specialize, it gets harder to create 2 sections out of 1.
Okay, this is a high school question. It also applies to everyone. Will the district put out guidelines about sharing materials like books and classroom supplies, things that are class sets?
Yes, I do believe that principals should have that, those guidelines, and should be disseminating that information. If they haven't, I'll make sure that Rob, Paul, and Jill get that information out to you.
This is another elementary one, but it can be for all levels. They asked, if we have students who have been receiving title skills interventions and they have decided to go remote, will they still receive some types of interventions remotely?
I'll turn that over to Jenny.
At this time, I do not believe we're going to do any assessing prior to first quarter. Of course, students with disabilities will have services provided to them, but since title and skills are not necessarily required, they may not get additional services at Eagle Online, at least at the very beginning of the school year. Our 3 title schools could be a little bit different because we do have some guidelines on those schools that actually qualify as title. So that information,
If you're interested in it, to get that done today.
Secondary question, junior high. Do students at the junior high who are online get to choose electives like as if they were in person?
I'm going to let Paul answer that question.
Yes. However, just like, and I think it's important to note, it may be very difficult for you to have a fine art where you are required to create, craft, or make. So there would have to be a switch there. But yes, they will be partaking in their electives for the most part, unless it's difficult for us to be able to offer that. I think a great example would be like ceramics. Obviously, ceramics or sculpture, you've opted for that, your 7th grade art, and there's really no way for you to co-participate. Then we'll utilize, we did buy a site license for Apex, so we will utilize Apex for some electives for students who are unable to fill out their entire schedule. I think we're close to being able to offer 70 to 75% of what was in our course catalog at both the junior high and high school will be available to our students Eagle Online. I think that's a tremendously high number. If you look at the surrounding districts on what they're offering, their 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th graders as electives, they're not even going to come close to what we're creating for our Eagle Online students.
Okay, high school question. Can we get clarification on where the HVAC filters are installed? For example, are they in all wings of the high school?
Jeff.
Yes and no. The filters are primarily in our air handler unit that feed the vast majority of the school. So that's where the majority of that filtration is going to take place.
Okay, elementary question. Where can teachers eat? The teacher's lounge is too crammed. Students will be in the classroom if it's inside recess. Will we have to eat in our cars?
That's a great question. I think that is definitely a building BLT kind of conversation. I know that, I mean, I know a few people that are doing that now. So, you know, it's a decision, like a personal decision that they've made. And I know some folks in other places, other workplaces, environments are doing that as well. So I would say that's something that I think your building BLT could come up with some solutions. And, you know, if you have I'm not sure who wrote the question, but you know, if you have a solution perhaps and you want to present that to your principal and or BLT, I think that'd be great.
Okay, secondary question, will Eagle Online follow the red-white remote learning schedule?
Paul?
No, Eagle Online will follow the daily bell schedule at the high school because of the fact that we are not adding staff to teach Eagle Online. It's possible that, especially on the 10-12 side of the building, a member of the department could have 2 bells of Eagle Online, and then they could have possibly 3 bells of in-person. So they are going to follow the bell schedule of the high school if you are Eagle Online. If we go to Plan B, Eagle Online follows the remote learning schedule. So if they are your second bell in the regular day, they move to your second bell in the remote learning plan.
Okay, elementary question. Are any of the in-service days being devoted to preparing our classrooms / learning spaces? Will there be new guidelines on how to set up classrooms safely?
Yeah, I'm going to let Rob answer some of this just because he's the furniture guy. So we'll let Rob talk a little bit about furniture, and he can also then speak about the week.
I do prefer to be called the czar of furniture, but we can address that later. Furniture is a little bit tricky for classroom learning spaces. I guess what our message would be for everybody is, as you set up your classroom, like you always would this time of year, take into consideration where you know you can make adjustments. If there is furniture in there that we could have it tagged and marked and removed for you not to worry that it can return someday, it would be a temporary thing. We need everyone to do that. It doesn't matter what grade you were in or what building you were in or how large the space is that you are in. More is more. And if we can give more space, every decision we make should be seeking to do that. So, for example, some teachers have several teacher desks and they have some rectangular tables around the perimeter. Some have kidney shaped or horseshoe, 2 very different sizes. But if it's something that you believe would give you the opportunity to get to a solid 3 feet per kid or 5 feet or 6 feet, then I think we need to consider doing that in any situation and all.
Right, this is a general question. If there is a positive COVID test in a classroom, what is the protocol for teachers and the students who are in those rooms?
Okay, so there is a flow chart that was sent out on Friday. Everyone should have that flow chart. But I think you know, just to kind of condense it, you know, if there's a positive case in a classroom, you need to identify the person and then determine if you have been exposed. And an exposure consists of being within 6 feet of that person for at least 15 minutes. 15 minutes is accumulative, so 15 minutes throughout the entire day. So it's not just 15 minutes at one time. So if you're with someone less than 6 feet for 1 minute, and then you're back throughout the day for a total of 15 minutes, then you would be considered to be exposed to that person. So not potentially, then not everyone in a classroom would have exposure to that person that had COVID. Is there more to that question, Wendy? Or did I answer it?
I think you answered it. If
Okay.
not, please put in the chat again another question and then we'll get to it. This question is, if you've already talked to Jenny about Eagle Online, do you need to answer today's survey?
Yes, if you want to teach Eagle Online, even if, because I don't know that Jenny has specifically communicated to everyone that even though you may have a medical or something of that nature, everyone in the elementary world, if you want to be Eagle Online, please respond to Jenny, or it'll be coming from Rob today. Please fill that Google form out.
And then this is a follow-up. High school teachers who are interested in Eagle Online and they are high risk, what is the plan for accommodating them?
Oh, he's looking at me like, are you crazy? I don't know.
So Jenny will be, by the end of the day, communicate with all staff what we have at the high school. I think it's important to note that high school, junior high, and elementary, because of specializations, it makes it difficult to create positions for Eagle Online. So Jenny has started communicating and will finish that today. And then Josh will then communicate with department chairs over the next 48 hours where needs and moves have to occur because staff members will either have bells or full days of Eagle Online.
All right, so there are two things that, not related to that question, going to something different. Before Wendy asks the question, two things. One is about face shields 6 feet apart. I want to talk about that. And then I also want to talk about, and I'm not sure if Shane and or Jason are on today, or if they've communicated to you that there is an MOU that was presented to us. I believe there were 16 items on that MOU. And I want to say that of the 16, we can happily come to an agreement, I think, on 14 of those. There were only two that we just felt like it was something, and they can explain that to you as they send that out. But we're hoping to get something in return, and then at the next board meeting, have that approved. So I feel really good about that. But one of the things is, and I see in the chat over here as I scan a little bit, there's a question about, do I have to wear a mask and a face shield? No, you do not have to wear both. However, there is a new mask order that came out last week. We have not seen the order, but prior to that order, I did ask the Claremont County Public Health Commissioner if teachers were 6 feet apart or 6 feet away from students and did not break that 6 feet barrier, could they take their mask off, wear a shield, and teach in front of their students? And at that point, she said yes. But she said there's a new order. We haven't seen it yet, and until we see the physical paper, then they could they could help us make a decision on whether or not that's okay. And so I'm hopeful that that is the case, that you'll be able to do that if you are comfortable doing that, to help and aid in your instruction. All right, back to you, Wendy.
All right. This says, I read the return to learning plan, and it says that students in Eagle Online will be given the same assignments and due dates as in-person students. How can that be true?
How can't it? I'm going to defer to Paul a little bit to talk about high school.
So we can use a specific example. Let's say there's 12 sections of English 10.
Let me get it passed.
2 of those sections will be remote. They'll be following our guaranteed curriculum. And so we're just asking teachers to recreate or deliver the same lesson remotely that they would be delivering to their students in person. So there's that way. And then there are some that will be hybrid where you'll have some in class and some in person. And so how you choose to assess to make sure they meet those same standards, that's a classroom teacher decision. We don't dictate an assessment philosophy or common assessments all the time. But, parents are under the umbrella that, if it's being done English 10 inside of the school, it's being done in English 10 in Eagle Online. So you're just delivering that course remotely to those students and parents that chose Eagle Online.
All right. What will be the role of aides if we go remote?
Jenny, I'm sorry, I was
Oh,
looking
sorry.
at you.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
So at this time, aides will be expected to return to work and work from our buildings. So at this time, that would be the same plan as teachers, that they will be in the buildings, working alongside their teachers to serve the needs of the students.
Can you provide COVID tests for us, for staff before the start, much like the flu shots that are given in the schools?
We have no plans to provide COVID testing. You are welcome to go get COVID tested, however you so desire. The locations that are out there, those are free. And then if you are an Anthem subscriber here with the district, those tests are covered through your primary care as well.
This is a high school science question. Are classrooms with lab tables going to get individual desks to allow for at least 3 feet distance between students?
I'm gonna let Rob Dunn answer that question.
Yeah, this is not an answer to just that question. Hopefully it's an answer to a lot of the questions that are similar. I've seen a few because a lot of our classrooms have just those standard rectangular tables that typically 2 or so students share. Part of the reason that masks are mandated is to help feel a little bit more comfortable with the distance piece, but that's not enough. The other piece that we're adding in for each and every student and every staff member is a tri-fold barrier that a student will have that is theirs. It folds, it weighs a pound. And that is hopefully going to add a second layer to that. It's not designed to use a mask or a shield. You should be using both. So I guess to answer the question about the tables, is there are different ways you can try to arrange it, either putting students on the far ends of the tables. You could even put them right across from each other, because if they both have the barrier, that will solve that. There are different ways you can do it with the masks and the barriers to give you a good amount of space. And each teacher, depending on your classroom, should really try to set that up in a way to maximize that space. It might not give you everything that you want, but hopefully with those 2 layers, it will really help prevent the transfer of any of that stuff.
All right. Next question. I can actually answer this. This person's asking if this will be sent out afterwards. Yes, we're recording it, right, Rob?
Yes.
Yes, we are recording this, so we will email it out to everyone afterwards. So if you missed anything, you can go back and get the questions and the answers. Okay, this is an elementary question. It says, if you are a UA teacher and a student teacher tests positive for COVID, will the school have to be shut down since the teacher sees every student?
I think the answer to that would be no, not necessarily. We have to do contact tracing again. If even I didn't. Did you specifically name art teacher or something, or was it just UA?
UA.
All right, I'll just say art teacher just because. So if you're the art teacher or the UA, well, it doesn't matter. If you're not within 6 feet of that student for more than 15 minutes, then that person is not considered to be exposed. So it really is about exposure, hence the importance of seating charts, attendance, and knowing who's in your classroom at all times and who's not. Those things are very important and will be very important. So I think that just because someone gets it in a particular building or place does not necessarily mean that the whole place will need to be shut down. It really, the contact tracing will be very important.
This question is for all. It says, thanks for ordering the shields. How will the trifold shields be cleaned and stored daily?
That is a really good question. Well, here's the advantage. The stored and clean piece, that's why it's 1 per person. They're not shared, they're not used by multiple people. So what each of the buildings or teachers or classrooms are going to have to arrange is how their day looks. So wherever they're going to start the next day, there has to be a system put in place where a student ends their day there before, so that those shields, those barriers stay here at school. And when it comes to the cleaning of them, realistically, it's the student's shield. So they can clean them however I wouldn't want anybody to touch my shield or vice versa. So that's why everybody will have their individual one, and then they can clean them however they feel, but they're the only ones who should be touching them and messing with them.
Right, the next question, it says, what is the protocol if a student spikes a fever during the school day? Will they go into quarantine, and what does that look like for the immediate family? I do want to remind you, we have our information hub on our website, and that flow chart is listed on there. If you go to the left-hand side, there's rectangle boxes, and that's on there, and you can click on it, and it's two-sided. It's what happens if a kid or staff gets sick at school, and then what happens if they're sick at home.
Yeah, so if that student spikes a fever during the day or doesn't seem to feel well, or doesn't look well, et cetera, you'll send them to the nurse, and then they'll be quarantined there and sent home.
The next question, I'm out of whack now. I don't know if we're elementary or secondary. We'll just keep
It's
going.
all good.
Okay.
We're doing great. We got plenty of time too. We're
Is
down
the
to 23
week
minutes.
okay? Is the week of August 17th going to be for planning, or will it be filled with PD?
There will be PD, and there is planning as well. Your building principals have that plan and should be disseminating that to you. So I would say there's a combination of both.
Another question. I heard the rule for classrooms is that everyone has to face forward. If we are using tables, how do we make sure that they can face forward?
I'll let Rob answer if I get this wrong, or he'll interrupt me. If you have tables and you have and we're ordering the shields that protect you from all three sides, there shouldn't be an issue with that, Rob.
I would agree. It goes back to typical classroom setup. As the person who's delivering instruction, you know how to arrange a room in a way that meets the needs of you as the one delivering and the students. That doesn't always mean we have kids facing forward. Sometimes we have them shoulders facing us because they just have to turn and look at us like that. So I think you could use your judgment on that. I think it's more important to make sure that you're controlling the space related to where the shields are resting, the way that they'll be facing, and things like that. Also, how you leave space for movement, because as we're going to want to try to keep these spaces clean, and you don't want anything that gets in the way of that. So facing forward might be the best option for you with the furniture that you have and the space you are in, but it may not work in every space. So we believe you can figure out the best way to do that.
We have a couple questions in here about filter and ventilation. I said, I'm not comfortable keeping my classroom door closed. An open door has to improve ventilation. It is not safe to be in a closed room with 20 plus students rotating in and out. Also, if they're locked, teachers will be touching doorknobs. And then another person said, we're not comfortable keeping our doors closed all day long.
At this time, I mean, the policy is that the doors are to be locked and closed, and there's a safety that's been in place. I think Jeff's made it pretty clear that the ventilation system may or may not work properly if the doors are open, and then actually it's a better filtration system if they are. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. And quite frankly, people are going to be touching those high touch areas. And I could be wrong, Jeff, you can help me with this too, that it doesn't necessarily stay on surfaces, COVID. So we're going to have to be diligent about wiping handles and doors and things of that nature. And right now, that's where we are with it.
Okay. Next question is a general question. If everyone has to move to remote learning and teachers will have to teach in the classroom, can those teachers with young school-aged children teach from home? There are numerous teachers worried about their own children and how they will learn without parental assistance.
Yes, I actually brought that one to Shane and Jason to make sure it was part of the MOU, which it was. I think that is great. I think that we have to do what we can I think the wording I used was we want to get the most out of everyone, and I think that's the best thing that can happen for families. I know that there are some classified staff on this chat today as well. Becky did reach out. That question did come up. I think the answer to that for classified staff would be it's going to have, that one's going to have to be case by case basis, because you may or may not be in an enclosed environment like a classroom all the time. And so where would the children be if you're not there? So I think that's a case by case basis that we can work through. Becky and or your building principal and then through Jenny Berkeley. And I noticed someone asked that question, who's Jenny? I'm referring to Jenny Berkeley every time I say Jenny.
All right, I have a oh, go ahead. Okay. Okay. This is a preschool question. It says, I saw somewhere that it said that all toys have to be sanitized. Does this mean soap and water, sanitizing spray, or wipes? And also, will the room be divided in half like it was originally discussed?
Wendy, full disclosure, I need you to repeat the question. My son Charlie sent me a text. Charlie left for med school today at OU, and I had to look. So
All right,
I'm
this is
sorry.
a preschool question. She says, I saw somewhere where it says that all toys have to be able to be sanitized. Does that mean soap and water, sanitizing spray, or wipes? And also, will the rooms be divided in half like it was originally discussed?
Jenny Berkeley.
So I talked to Sarah Sloan about this, and toys are cleaned on a regular basis. So I'm not sure we've determined the exact method for cleaning, but wipes would definitely be an option. As far as the rooms being divided, since the preschool is also under some preschool licensing, there was new language that we may no longer need the divider, and that they could open at full capacity. So we are still waiting on that. If we are able to open at full capacity, there will be no divider in the preschool classrooms.
Yeah, we're waiting for clarification from the governor on that order that Jenny's talking about, the full capacity. We assume that it applies to all of us, because us meaning public ed, but we've yet to get that from them. So as soon as we get that, we'll let you know.
All right, this was an elementary question, but it applies K-12. If students forget their masks, are we going to have extra masks on campus? What about if a student refuses to wear a mask? How will we need to handle that situation?
Refusal to wear a mask, they go home. It's mandatory. We 100% from the beginning said that masks would be mandatory, and we're going to stick with that. And then, of course, the governor has since made it mandatory K through 12. There is a new mask order, and we're still waiting for that. It's been verbalized, but it's not been put in writing yet. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Will there be extra? I was sorry, it was a two-part question. There will be extra masks on hand for students, and there's got to be a protocol for that as well at each building. Certainly follow PBIS, I would think, in some fashion. So they're expected to wear a mask. End of story.
All right, next question. Will in-service days be remote? Will teachers have to go in person to those PD meetings?
Right now, the expectation is that the 14th and then the following week is in person. If you feel like you need an accommodation of some sort, reach out to Jenny, your building principal. Doesn't mean there's going to be mass gatherings. I also will take the time to answer a question maybe about mass gatherings. If a mass gathering would be anything more than 10. Right now, we are able to have gatherings of more than 10 as long as people are social distance, 6 feet apart in all directions, and it's a part of the normal course of business. For instance, our board meetings here, we still have in-person, or we are having in-person board meetings because we believe that is a part of our normal course of business. However, anyone that comes must be, we move the seating here 6 feet apart, and everyone wears a mask. So we will, do that. If there's, something you have a concern or something, please speak with your building principal and or Jenny, and we'll work with people on that.
All right, we might have answered this. The question is, are all teachers being supplied with face shields?
All teachers with a face shield, as I look at Rob and his new face shield mask. Rob, the answer to that is yes.
Well, kind of. We
Well,
have
kind of.
nearly, not quite, but almost 600 of those. Let me give you some air. There you go. We have nearly 600 of those, so those people who need them or want them will have them. Not everybody is comfortable with the face shield, so we will have them for people who do want them. I would strongly discourage the ones with the mouth like this. They're really scary. So I would just get like a regular one.
So in the MOU is, and some of you do not have a good poker face every time Rob does something. In the MOU is that we're going to provide you a cloth mask, and that cloth mask is it's got our logo on it, so we will provide the cloth mask, and then we're talking about the shield. Is that the one we've got, Rob? It's close to the one Rob is wearing now. There we go. It's white with the, so we'll provide that for you if you really, as I think he said, we don't necessarily have enough for every single staff member, classified and certified, but if you need a shield, please contact building principal. Rob, is that the best? Building principals will have those. We'll make sure you get one if you need one. So yes, we're gonna make sure you have the PPE you need.
All right. Are teachers responsible for stocking cleaning supplies to clean their rooms, or will they be giving any wipes, sprays, etc., or are they buying their own?
You are not buying your own. We will supply all of those cleaning supplies for you. Please do not buy your own. If you've already done so and you feel the need to keep them, you're more than welcome to buy, and you should probably keep them anyway because you probably can't get them. But yes, if you have, it's great, but you don't have to do that. Please do not buy them. We will supply cleaning materials to you.
Why have many other surrounding districts recently stated that going to school with more than 50% capacity is not safe, but Milford is not doing the same?
The only ones that I've heard that said it's not safe is Cincinnati Public. I can't speak for other districts. I believe that we have a great plan to get back to school and provide options. That's why Rob and we've gone to great lengths to make sure that we've had the proper PPE, and we're going the extra mile to make sure that students have a shield. And then we've talked about moving furniture and just anything possible. So I think we have a great plan in place, and we're gonna go with it.
Okay. Will there be state testing this year?
Rob's laughing. That's a great question. I think that we have to just go forward and think that we are going to have some kind of state testing. I think what's important is that state testing for us, it's important, but it's never been at the forefront of what we do. What you do on a daily basis in your classroom is what's important. And we know that students are growing and achieving, and they will perform on those state tests. It's not something that we're worried about. So just you do you, keep on keeping on, and if they happen, they happen. I have full confidence and faith in our teaching staff, our students and families, and they will perform well.
All right. Yes.
I think Paul wants to talk.
And everything John said is absolutely correct. That is not a local decision. So I'll give you an example. We received an email this week to elect our statewide ACT testing. But if any testing is not or does not occur, that is an ODE directive, the Ohio Department of Education. So as soon as we know, you will know, and 9 times out of 10, it's in the paper before we're told. So, but that is not a local decision. That belongs to ODE.
All right. We have 9 more minutes and a lot more questions, so we're going
That's fine. We're
try
good.
to get through them. I thought students were to clean their spaces. It sounds like teachers have to clean doorknobs, tables, etc. How can this be safe for teachers and manageable throughout the school day?
That's a great question. I think that I see there's a couple other questions too. Certainly at the high school level, if the schedule that is presented to you happens, you'll be in 90 minutes. There's not an expectation that you're teaching from bell to bell in a 90-minute block. So there would be time for that to happen. It's my understanding that Virex is safe and according to Jeff, his staff has been using it for 10 years, all day, every day. I believe it has to sit on a desk maybe for 2 minutes, and Jeff had to leave for another meeting at Mulberry regarding roofing. So I am going to